Last time I just showed you where the blower motor in your 99 and up Suzuki Sidekick and Chevy Tracker were and what was in the way to get it out. This time I'm actually going to be walking you through the whole thing on how we remove it, replace it, and put it back. This will work on the first gen models too. They're pretty much in the same spot, but the computer's in the way on the 99 and up, which is why this is specific for that. Also, I'm not a professional mechanic and this isn't professional advice. I'm just trying to show you guys the best way I found to do this. If you don't feel comfortable or skilled enough, seek the help of a professional or get them to render the service for you. Also, you might be working around airbags, which can be extremely dangerous, and I'm not liable or responsible for anything that you attempt. So the first thing you want to do is open the glove box. It's only going to open so much as usual, but you can push it down. It's not going to hurt it. Push the inner tabs in like this so that this way they drop down, and then there's going to be a screw right here we have to take out that has a bracket that holds a pin. You take this one out and then it'll turn and come out, and then we're going to put the bracket back. I meant to say screw, but always put it back in the same spot so you don't lose it. All right, now that we're up underneath, you're going to see this black cover on the computer. We just take a 10mm to break these bolts free. Then we can take them out by hand to remove the black cover off of the computer itself. There's two tabs on here too that have to come out. To get them, you can either use a flathead screwdriver or something like that, or a pick tool, and you're going to stick it in this little slot right here and just pull down and they'll open up. Before we go any further, this is the main computer of your car. I am not responsible for anything that happens. All I'm doing is showing you how to get to the blower motor. Be very careful when you do this. You probably want to disconnect your battery, but you're going to push these little pins down, the little tabs down right here, and pull out the actual wiring harnesses. We want to move them out of the way, make sure that we pull this one off of the bracket that it's held on to over here. You're just going to have these little clips. Pop that off. This is probably going to be the most dangerous part of it, is the wiring harness and this computer, because if anything happens, this controls your entire car. Also, never use any screwdrivers or anything when pulling these brackets out. They make special pry tools or whatever that have forks and stuff that won't damage anything. If you use a screwdriver or something or a pick, you might actually puncture through and hit your wiring. You just want to pull these tabs out. You don't need to do anything that's going to be dangerous. Now we got to get a 10mm bolt from here, one in the back, one over here, and one in the front. They're going to be a little hard to get to. I can't remember what I used last time. You might want to use a box wrench. This ratchet right here is too big, so I'm going to have to find one that's a different size. I think I used a 1/4-inch drive with a shorty. But once we get these bolts out of the way, this bracket will come down. All right, now that we got that out of the way, here is your blower motor. Now this is pretty much where you start on the first gen models, because all that other stuff isn't in the way. You can just get under here and get it. I found that the easiest thing to do though, because there's going to be Torx screws right here and one in the back. If you take a T20 or T25 and tape it to a 1/4-inch socket on a 1/4-inch drive with a swivel, or if you buy a Torx socket, because you can buy these all as one piece, you can get up in there. But getting one that small is going to be the problem. So I just tape mine together and get up in there. The other thing is you're going to have to pull this out right here and this carpet back so we can pull this wiring harness out of the way, because even once we get to here, you're not going to be able to pull that down if this wiring harness is in the way. So let me show you how to do that. First thing we need to do here is pull this side panel out of the way. Be careful you don't break anything. There's going to be some tabs. I already had that one broke free, so it looks easier than it is. Then we're going to pull the carpet out of the way. After we get the carpet out of the way, we can get to this wiring harness right here, and this needs to be pulled loose. Yet again, be careful with wiring harnesses. You're going to go ahead and find where it's tabbed to the actual firewall, and there's going to be some clips that you can release and get that out of the way. I'll be back when I do it safely. All right, I know it looks like a jumbled mess, but it ain't that bad. I moved this stuff out of the way because this is all from the computer. So I had to undo two things here, had to undo two things here, and then I unhooked this connector right here. But just remember to be careful and do this at your own risk. Yet again, I'm not responsible for anything. I'm not a professional mechanic. I am just showing you guys how I found to get this out, because there's not much information on the internet concerning it. But also, there are airbags in here, so you don't need to hit anything that's related to the airbag system and set something off. You're not just worried about nicking wires. You're worried about what you might be grabbing and pulling on too. So if you're not proficient in this kind of stuff, remember, usually airbag systems are yellow wiring, but that's not a guarantee. So you need to know what you're pulling on. I just want you guys to realize when you get in here, sometimes there can be dangerous stuff. Now that that's all out of the way, we're going to take these out with the thing that I told you I had made. Now you can actually get these two out with a screwdriver. They're not the hard ones, it's the one in the back. But considering I've taped all my stuff together, I'm going to real quick pull that down just like this, and then I'll show you how to get the actual thing out. All right, so we need to get the wiring harness to it undone. You just trace it from here. It's actually going to be behind this bracket, and it goes up into this wiring harness right here. I've already pulled it loose because it has one of them little clips on it that hold it to something too. And then we can just unclip it and pull it down. Once all that's out of the way, we can go ahead and start pulling this down. You might get stuck a little bit, but that's part of the reason that we move this wiring harness out of the way, because now we can pull it way down and it's not going to be an issue. But you just want to work this out. You might have to rotate it some because of the way that the bracket is in the back. It might hit, so you might have to push it up and down a little bit, but then we're going to rotate it like that. And you'll eventually find it. You're going to have to pull the carpet down, and I can't do it all one-handed. And then you have to pull this out of the way. And then we'll just pull this out, and then we're good to go for the check-in to make sure the new one's correct. So here's what we fought so hard to get out. This is your squirrel cage or your wheel. And now the reason I knew how to pull this out is because I already had to clean it out. There's no cabin filter blocking the vent holes right here. So it sucked in all kind of leaves, and it had receipts in it and stuff like that. That is a common problem. So before you go buying a new one and changing it, you might just want to see if it's dirty. Especially I heard that a lot of people will hear buzzing or like some kind of vibration, or even something sounds like it's hitting, and it's because stuff gets in here and then it gets off balance. So it may not be that you have a bad motor. It might just be that you need to clean it out. Give that a try first, and then if you need to, at least you know how to pull it back out. But let's go compare this with the new one, because to me they look identical, but I want to make sure before we put it in. So here's the old one, and then here's the new one. The actual cages are identical. They look pretty good. Actually, this one looks like it might be a little bit thicker and tougher and stuff like that. But this one's also old, so, you know, that's subjectional. But the point is, it's nice and tough. Then we flip it over and we check the back side. Our brackets are the same. Motor housing is the same. Wiring is the same. Harness clips are the same, which, by the way, this is actually a good thing because I got this one at AutoZone. One, it was a whole lot cheaper, but the other ones you had to splice in. At least this one's direct clips. You ain't got to mess with your wiring or splicing anything and damaging things, or cutting harnesses you might not want to be comfortable cutting. And then the last thing is this little clip came in the box, and I couldn't figure out if it was for a different model or what, but I figured it out taking the old one out. It clips on right here for some reason. So if you do have that, just pay attention that you put your stuff back where it's supposed to be, and that sometimes things have to be added back to the new product. All right, now that we compared them and know that they're going to work, we can go ahead and put the other one back in. You might want to clean out the hole and stuff while you're up in here a little bit, but we're just going to stick it back up in there. If you have any problems, do like you did when you took it out. Kind of move it around, twist it so this way the brackets are facing different directions. Get it up in there, make sure your brackets all line up, and then put the screws back in. And don't forget to hold that piece in place. I said to use a Torx bit to get them screws out that hold the actual blower motor up, and that is true, but you can actually use a socket as they are hex head, but as thin as that is right there, I found that I couldn't really get a socket on it. Now once I pull it down a little bit using the Torx bit, you can get a socket. The back one, it might have a reason to do that, but that depends on how much you're fighting with it and if you feel like trying to force a socket up in that spot. So I got it back in there. Just a little hint, the rounded parts go here and up against the firewall, that flat spot, and the piece that we had to put back in there go here. That's a good thing because it gave us pressure to push up on it instead of it being back here like I thought it was. But that's just so you have a little bit of heads up and you're not aggravated like me because you forgot which way it went in. Then I'm going to hook the connector back up. I also want to hook up the wiring harness back to this right-hand side because I want to put the computer back in and test everything. And you don't want to test it so you have everything hooked back up and everything in a place where it's safe. You're not going to mess things up, but you don't want to put everything back together and then test it and something go wrong either. And then you have to tear it back out. You're aggravated. Plus putting things in, taking it out, putting things in, taking it out can cause things to get damaged. They can wear parts out and stuff like that. So make sure you get to a point where it's safe to test it, but make sure you don't put everything back before you actually give it a try. All right, got the key in. Well, it's blowing before we get it started. It is definitely blowing now. Low. 3, 4. All right. Off and on. It's not fluctuating or skipping. All right, let's put it back together. All right, so we still got the computer hooked up. I'm not worried about it. If it bothers you, disconnect it again. But I can push this piece back. I can push that piece back. This is already together. I just got to put that clip right here, put the bracket on, slide this back in there, put the glove box, and we're good to go. If you want to see more stuff, watch this video right here.